welcome to Newark Airport. Okay, let's see if we can figure out which gate is our gate here. I mean, this is, you can get lost here. Okay, that says gates there. I thought I saw the tail of the airplane. No, that's not our gate. Let's see if we can find it here. This is the new KEWR airport for Newark, and as you can see, we can have a little walk around the terminal here. Okay, there are more bookstores. There's gates. Okay, I think maybe this is our gate up here. Okay, there's Hudson's, good. I haven't found a Starbucks yet, and I could use some coffee. Okay, is this it? Is this our gate? There's the tail of the airplane. I think we found our gate. Is this it? Let's go on over here, and there it is. There is our 737. How about that? Almost as much fun as getting to go to the real airport, but we didn't have to go through security, and most of our credit cards intact too. Hello there, my name is Dave. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I do the spy flights over on Twitch. I'm also doing some morning flight briefings over on Patreon now, and this is my regular Monday video, sort of a cold and dark complete flight video here on YouTube. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you and your family had a great Christmas or holiday season, and we are at Newark. And they did an update on the Boeing 737, which you can see out the window right there. And we are at gate, I believe this is Concourse C. This should be gate Charlie 71, I believe, or 81. I'm not sure. Let's see. Do we have actual? Some of the airports actually number the gates. You could actually see gate numbers and stuff here. I don't think so, but I think that this one here, let's see if we can walk down. You can't even walk down some jetways here. Yeah, we can walk down this jetway, and well, there it is. Uh-oh, they haven't got the jetway all the way out. But I mean, wow, the detail at this airport is pretty amazing. And one of the reasons I wanted to fly this the 737 is because they did a big update. Just before the Christmas holiday, we got a really big update here on the 737. So I was kind of figuring maybe a 737 flight would be cool. And I also have an idea for a challenging approach today, too. So let's take a look at the flight for today. We're going to be taking the PMDG 737, talking a little bit about some of the updates, and we're going to try the Circle-to-Land at Washington, Dulles, runway 30. Yeah, Circle-to-Land at runway 30 at Dulles. This is it's not as hard as some other Circle-to-Lands, but this one is actually this has its moments. Now, add-ons that I'm using, obviously, KEWR airports for Dulles and also Newark. Navigraph SimBrief SimToolkit Pro. I'm also going to be using the Topper 737 calculator, and I'm also using Pushback Helper, which is free. Our flight today. Right now, Newark is landing and departing. Departing on runway 22 right, it's park and the high parade arrival. Chances are we'll also get the Newark 4 departure. We're not on VATSIM, but usually they're going to give you the Newark 4 departure. Initial landing at Dulles is going to be 01 right with the Circle-to-Land to runway 30. SimBrief gave me flight level 300 for today's flight. I think that's a little bit high. I think probably flight level 240 might be a better cruise altitude. Flight time should be about an hour and 15 minutes. Distance is only 307 miles. So pretty simple there. Whole big thing about doing these videos on YouTube is you're able to go and fly along with me. So if you want to, stop the video, load up your sim here at Newark, and we'll get ready to go and then restart the sim. The other cool thing is you can stop the video and rewind a little bit if I happen to do something that might have been just a little bit too fast or something along those lines. Okay, all cool. Are we ready to hop into the best seat in the house? Okay, so let's go over here and we'll go nice view. Oh, let's also go here, go to the top menu here, and we're going to do the little cloud, and we're going to do live weather and real time. Always got to do live weather in real time, unless the weather's really, really bad and you're not in the mood. So anyway, now we can go and hop in the best seat in the house. And here we are. So for the PMDG 737, this is my cold and dark setup here. So pretty much everything is off. As far as stuff that has been preset on the airplane, I do have the ground power plugged in. So if you look over here, you'll see the PMDG ground power cart. It's hard to see. It's over there. So there's the ground power cart. That's in. And it's hard to see too, but I also leave the main door open. So main door's already open, and that's good to go. That's pretty much it. I have a little bit of fuel in the tanks, not much. And other than that, it is a cold and dark airplane. The pilot's flight FMS, flight management system, should be up, and so we can go directly to FS actions. This is one of the first things that I do on this airplane, and I'm going to go to ground services. I will make sure that ground power is yellow. That means that ground power is indeed plugged in, and then I'm going to click the jetway button. And if you go outside, you can see our jetway for runway for gate 81 is coming out to the airplane. And I also have a quick view set up here so that you can go and watch the jetway come in. I think the doors actually even open. Yeah, the doors to the jetway even open too. Really impressed with some of the jetway technology that we're starting to get here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And you may be saying, hey, come on, jetway technology? Listen, we like flying jets, and it's okay to want to walk down a simulated jetway, okay? Okay, over on the flight plan, and I'm using the Lido style of flight plan here. We'll go over to the main page. So there's page 1, and I'm going to go page 2 and page 3. This is going to give me passengers and cargo. So let's slide that over here, and we're going to go to page number 2. It's also going to give me fuel. Now I'm going to actually find the exact fuel number on page 1, so we'll backtrack a bit. And fuel. So what you want is block fuel at Newark, and that's 12,568 pounds. So let's put that in right now, 12,568. Put that in the little box and call the fuel truck. There you go. Let's get that fuel truck rolling right here and right now. Next thing we'll do is page number 2. This is where we're going to go and do passengers. So passengers, that's back to page 3. We have 138 brave souls flying with us today. So let's go and do 138 and put them at the gate and ready to go. We'll board them a little bit later on. We need to turn the airplane on first. Next page is going to be baggage. There's 2 cargo bays, forward and aft. And so what we do here is take our total cargo load, which is 8.4, divide it by 2. And fortunately, this is an easy divide, and that's going to be 4.2. So 4.2, 4,200 pounds of cargo up front, and 4,200 pounds of cargo in the back. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to go ahead and call those immediately. Let's get them coming. Get them there. Passengers are waiting, and the fuel truck has attached itself, and we can go ahead and start fueling. So if we go outside and come on around here, you can see some baggage stuff is starting to show up here. Here is our PMDG fuel truck, and we are getting PMDG fuel, which I guess is really good fuel. Okay, that's what I will do at this point. Next thing for me is to go ahead and start turning on the airplane. And it's a Boeing 737. You hit the on switch, and that's the battery button right here. And so if we go ahead and click the switch, there's the power switch, and I'm going to guard it. Then I'm going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to go and do the down arrow on ground power. And that's going to get ground power from our ground power system. I'm going to come over here, and as we look over here, I'm going to do position lights, and I'm going to put those to steady. Then after that, we're going to look over here. I'm going to do left and right recirculating fans, get those going right here and right now. If it was super duper cold outside, I would come up here and we could do it anyway. It's wintertime. I'm going to start up the windshield heaters. So I got those going on, and our airplane is starting to come to life. Other stuff that I could do here, from what I understand in the United States, policy is to have the APU up and running and ventilating the airplane before you bring the passengers on board. So I'm going to do the aft fuel tank, and that's got pressure. And now we'll come over here and we can do the APU. So one click to on, one click to start, and it will bounce back. And then that's going to go ahead and start up the APU. So there comes the APU starting up. You can also see a baggage cart coming in here. So there's the APU. You can hear it. And here's the baggage cart kind of starting to do its loop-de-loop around here. So we're slowly getting the baggage going. APU is coming up. And as the APU continues to come up, you'll see the EGT going up. And EGT is going up. So that's a good thing. And we're starting to see some more things pop up here. Notice that the flight management computers have changed a bit. So let's start over here on the co-pilot side. I'm going to do menu, and I'm going to do FS actions, and we'll go to ground services again. And there's page 1. That's no change there. Page 2, we've got gas flowing into the airplane. That's a good thing. Passengers are waiting at the jetway. Oh, and look at this. We can now start the loading process of the cargo. Okay, so all of that's good to go. Let's go ahead and look up here. We also now have pneumatic pressure in the duct system. So aside from me making a wisecrack about ducts, okay, that wasn't that great. So anyway, let's just go ahead and turn on left pack and right pack and get the air conditioning going, and all of that is looking really good. So airplane's coming to life here. With the ventilation starting to go through the airplane, we can now go back to page number 3, and I'm going to hit start, and passengers can now start coming down the jetway. Got 138 of them, so it'll take a little bit of time. Next thing I'll do is come over to the FMC on the pilot side, check my navigation database. We've got a couple of more days before it's going to be Navigraph Day. Let's go over to the position init page. And reference airport is Newark, KEWR, Newark. And we'll pop that in. Some of the newer airports in Microsoft Flight Simulator know what gate, have gate data. We know that we are at gate Charlie 81. So let's try and see C81 and see if we have gate data. Oh, look at that. We got the latitude and longitude for the gate that we're at too. Cool, we can use that. Now then, let's come on up here, and we're going to slide all the way up here, and we're going to slide in and do nav and nav. So here's the IRS system. We'll go nav 1, IR2 goes to nav 2, and if you want to monitor it a little more, dial this thing all the way over to heading and status. You may need to turn up the brightness on that control, and then you'll start to see some numbers appear. And that's a good indicator that that system is starting up correctly. Now that we got that going on, let's look back down at the pilot's FMC. And now, since we've turned that on, you see we got blank boxes. Let's take our gate position and put it in here to the IRS. So what do you do if you don't have gate? If the airplane, if your scenery doesn't have gate data? Well, the next thing to do, you see there's 3 pages here on position init. Go to the next page and see there's 2 GPS positions. Just grab one of the GPS positions, so click it, and that'll put it in the scratch pad. Go back to page 1, plug it into those little boxes, and that's as good as a gate position. So you're good to go there. All right, with all this done, we can go to the route page. Now then, it did leave Newark in here. This is the PMDG. So for the PMDG, you need to go and use the SimBrief downloader. So I'm going to go to the SimBrief downloader, and this is just going to go and get my flight plan. There it is. And one of the things is I have it all set up here. So here is the PMDG flight plan, and you see I have 3 directories set up in here. This is for the 737, 67, and 800. Yes, I have 3 of them. I know. And I probably will get the 900 when it comes out, just because I really think these are great airplanes. So anyway, now that we've got those loaded, now we can come and take this EWR that's in the scratch pad, click Origin, and then request your flight plan. And there's 4 flight plans that I've done out of Newark. We want Newark to IAD, Dulles. Now sometimes when you click it, it takes you back to the main screen, so you have to do it a second time, and then you can select it. Sometimes you have to do it twice. Okay, let's, while that's downloading that, let's look over here. 50 passengers are aboard. Let's go back to page 2, and you can see 12,561. The fueling is done. So let's see, the route uplink is ready. Let's just go ahead and release the fuel truck right now. Go back over to page 3. Passengers are walking down the jetway, and we'll leave it on page 4 as the baggage is slowly being loaded. And now you can see here the route uplink is ready on the pilot's side, so let's hit load. There goes that one. And everything's good. While those things are loading, this is the updated airplane. So one of the things that they were talking about, the developer was talking about, is they are going to start modeling the cockpit door. So one of the things is the cockpit door has traditionally never worked on PMDG airplanes. My suspicion is to make the airplane a little more efficient. But sim pilots want to be able to open the door and check out the cabin. So right now, one of the updates is you still can't open the door, but you can walk right through it. So you can walk through the door now and set really nice cabin views, wing views very, very easily now. You can even set a view here and look at the main passenger door. So you can walk through the door magically. You don't have to worry about anything. And in an upcoming airplane, PMDG is going to let us open the door. Okay, route data uplink is done. We're going to go ahead and put in our call sign, United Airlines, and the number that I usually use, and I'm sure you're going to do your number, and that's good, so we can activate it and execute it. Okay, so that's looking good. Oh, and look over here. If we look over here, you see baggage handling. We can now, the bags are loaded, so we're going to release the carts. So all of those are gone, and if you wanted to go outside, you can see the conveyor belt is dropping down. You can even see the door is closing. It's happening the same way up front. The baggage carts are going to drive away. So all of that's good to go too. Now we're going to go back here, and I'm going to take the co-pilot side and go to page 3, and that's going to be for monitoring passengers. With that being said, the next thing for us to do is I'm going to go to the performance initialization page. Now then, SimBrief has got us going all the way up to flight level 300. I think that that's a little bit high for such a short flight. So we're going to go to flight level 240 today. So 240 is going to be what we're going to do. Might take a little more fuel, but that's all right. Okay, cruise winds. You get cruise winds on the Lido style or the default style of flight plan from SimBrief on page 1, and that's what you want. It's the average winds, which is 244 degrees at 75 knots. So we're going to go and do 244 degrees, the slash, and 75 knots, and that's going to go in for cruise winds. Next thing we're going to do is we'll start at the top part of this. It says cruise system, and cost index is 35. So we're going to put in our cost index down here of 35. Reserve fuel. So reserve fuel that I'm doing, that's going to be down here near the bottom of page 1. See where it says FinRes and Alton? Okay, that stands for Final Reserve and Alternate Fuel. And if you look in the planned fuel thing here, we've got contingency fuel, alternate fuel, and FinRes. So all 3 of those numbers for 30 minutes of flying time, 15 minutes of extra flying time, plus the amount of fuel to get you to your alternate. So these 3 numbers, there's the timings off to the side. So the bottom number, final reserve, 30 minutes of extra flying time. Contingency, 15 minutes of, oh my God, we're all going to die time. I'm sure they don't call it that. And then alternate. This is the amount of fuel that it takes for us to get to our alternate, which is Pittsburgh. Those 3 numbers add up to 5,560 pounds of fuel. So what they want here is, we're going to put that in the decimal form. So that's going to be 5.56. And that's going to round it up just a little bit. Okay, and so we're all good to go. Passengers are almost boarded. So let's go ahead and we're going to get something called Topper. Topper is a really cool little flight planner. And this is for V-speeds for takeoff. First thing we're going to do is put in our departure airport, KEWR, Newark. We know that we're going off on 22 right, so 22 right. Let's select a Boeing 737-800. It's an old school Boeing, so let's go and select Imperial, pounds and feet. And now what we need to do is we need to go over and get some METAR data. Several ways to do this. A fast way is with the new Navigraph. So Newark, and it's going to be the airports. Go to weather, and there is our data right there. So we can go and plug that in right now. Winds right now in Newark are 270 7008. Outside air temperature in Newark is -2, still cold. The altimeter is 3024. Okay, and that's all we're going to do right now. We could change flaps to flaps 5, 10, 15. And air conditioning, I'm going to leave on. Anti-ice, there's no clouds right now, so I'm going to leave that off. Okay, so let's look over here. 138 passengers are done loading. So now that the passengers are done loading, let's go over here and we're going to go to, let's just go through. This is clear. Baggage handling is clear. Lavatory services and maintenance is clear. Everything's clear. Let's go and hit return. Doors, and we're going to close the 1L door. And if you've got a shortcut key, you can go and watch the door close. So now with the door closed, we can come over here and we're going to return. I'm going to go back to ground services and I'm going to release the jetway. And so if we look up here, you'll see the jetway is going to slowly pull away. Jetway is clear. With the jetway nice and clear, I'm going to go ahead and turn on seatbelts. We're also going to arm and guard the emergency exit lights. So those are all good to go. Now then, we got some more numbers to do. First things first, I have not done my departure and arrival yet, so let's go and do departure and arrival. So departure, we are departing off of 22 right, and I'm just going to go ahead and plug in the Newark 4 departure, just because it's good to have in there, and that's good. And then back to the index page. We're coming into Dulles. We are currently planning 1 right, but we'll break off and do the Corcle-to-Land. We are doing the Hyper 8. So there is Hyper 8, and that is going to be at Park. And we don't need these two transitions. So we're going to go ahead and do execute. So all of those look good. If you look at legs, you can see it's going to be off the runway vectors to Park. Then we're doing jets. There's Joan. And then there's Mosby. There's Tycon. So all of this is good to get us over to our runway. Back to route, back to performance init. Passengers are aboard. So let's go ahead and just click where it says 0 fuel weight. And that's going to go and give you your current load sheet. So that's going to give you that right now. At that point, I'm going to come over, grab my topper, and this is not the exact number, so I still have to find a better place to find my takeoff weight. I'm using gross weight right now, which is 140,400. 140,400. This is not a good number yet, it's just how it is that I'm fixing it at the moment. And now let's go ahead and calculate. We're going to derate to 70 degrees, flaps 5, and it's 138, 139, and 143. Those are our numbers. This is going to give you a bunch of unables and stuff like that. I usually just clear those out. And now we need to execute this. Go to N1 limits. Our selected temperature. Select temperature is going to be 70 degrees, also known as a derate. If we were in an Airbus, we would call it flex. With that, we're going to go to takeoff. We know it's going to be flaps 5. Based on the current weight, here is our center of gravity. It'll just automatically give you the number, and it'll give your trim setting for takeoff, and then you plug in your V speeds. So 138, 138, 139, up 39, and 143. Let's say you don't have topper. What do? Well, you can see that it's suggesting, this one is suggesting for you speeds too. So you can just grab those speeds there if you don't want to use topper. Okay, but now all of those are good. It's time to go and do a little bit of stuff here in the autopilot. So over on the autopilot, we know we're departing off of 22 right. That is going to be 219 degrees off the runway. So 219 is our heading off the runway. There we go. If we're going to be on VATSIM, and even if we're not, it's always good to look at your departure and have a quick look at your top altitude. Our initial climb off of runway 22 right is going to maintain 2,500 feet, and a top altitude is going to be assigned by ATC. So let's say ATC has told us to go to 10,000. Boy, that makes it easy, huh? And then the next thing we can do is look at our V2, which is 143 knots. I'm going to go and put 143 in here. After I put 143, this is when I remind myself to turn on my flight directors. Okay, flight directors are good. Everything's good here. Let's go ahead and trip in the APU generator. 2 switches. 1, 2. Be sure and then turn off ground power. So we've got those in there. That's great. And let's look down here, and we can go ahead, and I'm going to release the ground power cart. Now then, I'm going to look down here, and the way that the brakes work, you push your toe brakes all the way forward and pull the silver handle. To release the parking brakes, you push your toe brakes forward. And that's the way this airplane's supposed to work. Okay, I'm going to clear that caution. And so we've released ground power, we've released the jetway. All of that's looking good. Let's come on up here. What else can we do? A real-world Boeing pilot came in and said at their airline, they don't turn on the hydraulic pumps until they close the door to the cabin. So that's what I'm closing the door to my cabin now. Now we're going to come up here, and I'm also going to turn on my yaw dampers. So those are good. I've got my window heat on. And let's look down here. Everything looks good to go there. Uh-oh, I have not done my pressurization. So we're going to flight level 240, 24,000 feet. There's 240. For landing altitude, we can go over to our charts, and we can go and do airports. Dulles is 313 feet above sea level, so we're going to go and do 300. And it's kind of hard to see. There we go. So now we'll do 300. There you go, 300, that's good. It's almost pushback time. I'm going to go ahead and do my anti-collision lights. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Parking brakes are on, everything's clear here. I'm going to return on the co-pilot side. We're going to go pushback. I'm going to do a straight push. Let's go ahead and connect the tug. All of that's looking good. What haven't we done? Oh, I don't think I have set my... altimeter, and the altimeter is 3024. So 3024. Wow, some nice high pressure after all that stormy weather. 3024. The altimeter is now set. I think it's time to go ahead and start doing pushback stuff. So we'll look down here. The brakes are on. We're squawking 2000, so I'm going to go to transponder, and we'll come up to the co-pilot side. And let's go ahead and hit start.
Cockpit to ground. Go ahead. We've been cleared for pushback and start, tail straight out. Roger that. Ready for push straight back. Brakes off.
Okay, feet on the rudder pedals. Push your rudder pedals all the way forward. Releases the brakes.
Brakes released.
And then if you go back here, have a look outside the window. It'll take a few seconds for it to get going. The ground crew on this airplane will automatically pull your chocks, so you don't have to worry about pulling your chocks. Now, if you're not going to use their pushback, if you're going to say use pushback helper or something, you're going to have to pull your own chocks on this airplane. And there we go. We are pushing back. And there we go. This is just going to do a straight push, so we can go ahead and start up some engines here. So for engine start, I usually go and I do my fuel pumps first and wait till the lights go out. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn off my packs, and we'll ground start engine number 2. I usually do the packs last to keep the air comfy in the cabin for the passengers. And we're going to look for the N2 to go up on this airplane. I'm told it's 25%. One of the things I really like about this pushback is it handles the push. We can actually do engine start on this. 21, 22, 23, 24, and
Pushback complete.
25. Engine number 2 is going up. Toe brake's in. Parking brake is pulled. And if we come out here, now what will happen on the PMDG pushback truck is it'll yap at you a bit and then the tug will just disappear. Like magic. And there is our startup on engine number 2. Engine number 1, as you can see, is off. And if we look down here, you can see the N2's going up. Everything's looking really good. And starter valve is off. And everything looks good. I say ground start engine number 1. Ground start. Starter valve goes open here. And we should see the N1 and N2 starting to go up. Now that we're done with the pushback, I'm going to go and hit progress on the co-pilot side. Looking over here, 19, 21, 23, and 25. There goes engine number 1. Important safety tips, something that I did not know. Over here on the clock, you see this little thing, the top button here, you see how that goes up and down? This can change your rate, your simulator rate. So I didn't know about that. And I thought I was setting a timer. I thought I was setting the timer. And apparently I kicked my simulator into warp factor 10 and didn't realize it until VATSIM-ATC says, "What are you doing?" So, important safety tip, you can change your sim rate on the clock here. So, don't be fooled. And we got a good start on engine number 2 and engine 1. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and get packs back on quickly. Passenger comfort being important. Now that that's done, I'm going to go and trip in my engine generators. Engine generators are good. Isolation switch closed and auto. And the APU bleed can go off. Looking up here, we're going to turn the probe heaters on now that everybody's clear from the nose of the airplane. Make sure your generators lights are out, and then we'll turn off the APU. While I'm up here, I'm going to click my taxi light. I'm going to do a cabin call, let them know that we're going to start rolling the airplane around a bit. Make sure that I'm squawking mode Charlie on the taxiway. If we were on VATSIM, we would need to be 122.8. There is 122.8, and we would be doing our thing. I was just testing out a new radio panel, and it worked great. I think we're ready to go. So where are we? We are at Newark. There are several ways you can look at this. You can look at the actual Jepson chart, and the Jepson chart is really nice. It'll give you information. Or you can clear out of that and just go to the basic map and zoom way in, and then you can go ahead and see your taxi route. I really like using this, and I have this set up over on the monitor just right over there so that I can monitor my taxi. The real pilots are starting to use those sorts of things too, so I definitely suggest that. Lights on, throttles are idle, brakes are off, we're going to release. Let's go ahead and start our taxi out. An Airbus, you just have to push the throttles forward a little bit. Not so on the 737. It wants you to push them forward, get the airplane rolling, and then pull them down. And if you listen to some real-world videos, you know, people doing passenger videos over on YouTube, it sounds the same. So you definitely need a little bit of power to get this thing rolling. And there is our exit. There's Romeo Golf. two different schools of thought about when you do your flaps and stuff. In my case, I do my flaps in the summertime as I leave the gate. In the wintertime, if there's snow and ice on the ground, apparently what you do is you delay your flap deployment until you get closer to the runway to avoid getting a bunch of snow and ice and junk kicked up into your flap mechanism. So flaps 5. So there we should have leading edge slats. I think we got a turn that we got to do here. There's Sierra. There goes leading edge slats. There's flaps. And I'm running over taxi lights. The horror. Okay, we should also get ready to go and do auto brakes to RTO. At this point, there are a couple of buttons that I push here, so I'm going to come over here and we can do the engine button, and that takes all the engine instruments and puts them on one monitor. If you want to be a really good pilot, you can push the one next to it and look down there and do your control checks. Speed brake. I'm not going to do the rudder because we're taxiing. And then I'll turn those off. Everything's looking good here. We're going to go up to, we're on Sierra. We're going to make a little bit of a turn. There should be Mike. And then we'll just depart from Whiskey today. And if you look over there, it even has the correct sign, which is so nice. So here we are coming over here. ATC just called, cleared us onto the runway, so I'm going to do strobes. I'm also going to go continuous start. Let's come on down here. Let's start squawking TARA. I'm going to go traffic. I'm going to also crunch down my, I'm going to redo the, reset the fuel flow. Going out on runway 22 right. Perfect. After departure, runway heading, and then vectors to park. Around we go. Coming onto the runway, I've got a button set up on my throttles for auto throttle. Auto throttles are now armed. Let's also go ahead and we're going to do VNAV and heading select. Out on the runway, landing lights. And I think it's flying time. Throttles can go up just a little bit here. I'm going to go to about 25%. Look down and see if everything's stable. Stable. I'm going to push it up to 40%. I have another button set for auto thrust. Auto thrust is engaged. Hands are on the throttles. Thrust is set. Need a little bit of left rudder. Checked. I forgot to set my trim for takeoff, so I'm going to do a little downward pressure on the yoke. I always forget to set my trim. If I use my checklist,
V1. Rotate.
And up and away.
Positive rate of climb.
Landing gear going up. So long, Newark. Usually when I look outside the window, I always end up climbing a little bit too much. And we are currently heading 215, supposed to be 219. Let's get a little help from the autopilot because we're going to be busy. There is the AP. I'm going to bring my map out a little bit until I can see. There's park. ATC called and said direct park. Direct to park. And climb and maintain 17,000. There's 17,000. Speed's coming up. How about a couple notches of flaps? And oh my gosh, look at the scenery outside of this. Seriously, it just keeps getting better and better. I'm so amazed when I look out the window like this. And leading edge slats can go up now. There's some parts of the scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator that are just so true to life these days. And it's blowing me away. There goes our leading edge slats. And we are out and about. Okay, that's relatively close to park. Let's go a little bit closer. And now we're going to come down to legs. Park. And direct to. Come on up here. LNAV. Flight level 240. ATC is being really nice and rooting us up there really good. Okay, let's see. All of this looks good. Let's do landing gear. The down arrow wants to turn it off, and this is when I remember to turn off my auto brakes. We're going to have to hit a bunch of these unable tos. There's a quick fix for that. I just don't remember what it is. I'm going to go and put this one on climb mode. This is on progress. And we are out and about. And incredible views outside the window. What a beautiful day to fly. 250 knots, passing 7,500. All is right with the world. Everything looks good down there. Some really nice sunrise views today. Coming up on 10,000 feet. 8, 9, and. So 10,000 feet, landing lights, nose light, continuous start goes off unless we need it for heavy precip, cabin call. And our speed's starting to go up. I'm serious, almost like we know what we're doing. This is getting scary. Now, if you want to track your progress here, you can see that we're doing pretty good. Since this is such a short flight, though, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to Dulles, and we're going to go to weather, and I'm going to grab the latest METAR and put these over in my flight notes. If you look over at the description for this video on YouTube, you can see that the format that I have, this is a text file that I've got set up. These are my flight notes. I've copied and pasted that in there so that you can copy and paste it in a notepad and use it any way that you want. But that's how I avoid going through reams and reams of paper. Passing 11,000 feet. We are doing so good today. The captain gets to sit back and have a sip of coffee. Heading is 286. Coffee is tasty. One of the things that I usually like to do with this airplane is I like to come down here and do the main panel backlighting. So I will go and turn that up a bit. I will also do the main panel backlighting up here. I didn't do it on departure, but it just makes it easier to see things. Maybe I'm getting old and going blind, I don't know, but it just makes all of the labels on the instruments kind of pop out a little bit more, and that's nice. Everything looks good here. Next thing we're going to do is 18,000 feet. 18,000 feet is going to be altimeter reset. We've got traffic on. The only other thing that we could do up here is I usually will do airports and data. So I will put airports and data up there. When we're, this is going to show us at 1753 Zulu is when we're going to be at jets. So 1748, 5 minutes to jets. Passing 15,000 feet, heading 286. And we get to look outside and enjoy the views. Really clear day up and down the East Coast. There was a ton of snow earlier though. Nothing to worry about up here. Pressurization is good. No red lights. No blinking and flashing and beeping. See, one thing I usually will also do is I'll come up to the electrical panel and I will turn the meter to monitor generator 1. You could also have it monitor generator 2. Coming up on 18,000 feet. 17 and almost 18. Hit the standard altimeter button. I'm going to do another cabin call. Let the flight crew, cabin crew know that they can get up and start doing anything but Diet Pepsi, right? No, it's Diet Coke. That's supposed to be the hardest drink to pour as the airplane's climbing and getting pressurized, I think. So if you want to be nice to your flight attendant, order anything other than Diet Coke. I don't know what it is, but something about that. I'm sure there's a YouTube video on that. Okay, this is all looking good. Pull back. Have a quick look all overall. No problems there. If it were nighttime, I would do dome lights to dim. No reason to have it on right now. I would probably also have come down here. Another thing I do at night is I will look down here and I will do the digital. I will go and drop these down a little bit. You see how that drops a bit? When it's up full like this, it tends to blaze at night and you actually can't see numbers. It's also kind of hard to see the flight director bars. So at night, I will turn these down. I will also do 2 clicks of the background and 2 clicks of the auto flight. And so that's going to start turning on this light up here to make it a little easier to see these. And there is a little bit of a turn at park. We are now direct to jets, 13 miles to jets, passing 22,000 feet. And incredible views outside the cockpit today. Really nice views. Oh, we got us, there's the snow line. So you can kind of see the snow line there. We've got snow actually melting here. We've had a couple of days where the temperature was, 22 below. But the snow is actually melting here pretty good. All right, coming up on 24,000 feet. And this should be going from climb to cruise mode. There we go. Now we're in cruise mode. It says we're 65 miles from top of descent. We'll also come over here. I'm going to go seatbelts to auto. And everything's looking good. Let's talk a little bit about this approach. This approach is a little bit different. So Navigraph. So come on over here, and we're not going to need to go back to Newark, so I'm going to clear out my Newark charts. Just helps keep this stack of charts kind of nice and neat. We're going to come in on the Hyper 8 arrival. We're coming in via, I believe, Albany or Barnes. Hyper 8 at Park. Oh, we're coming in at Park. I know I'm coming in at park. I don't seem to be able to find it right now. Is that the transition? Hyper 8 at park. I'm sure it's right in front of me. This is embarrassing. Sarah, there's Jets. There's Sarah. Lancaster. Lancaster. It must have been up here. I can't. Oh, there it is. Here it is. There's park. So we came in at park and then we joined at Jets. Okay. So at Lancaster, we come around here at Hyper. We want to be at 250 knots and 10,000 feet. We're going for runway 01 right. So we're going to look for Sigbee, Moat, Hustle, Yak, and Tycon. So let's just go and verify. So go to legs. And do we see all the way down to Yak and Tycon? There's Yak, there's Tycon. So it's the correct transition. That's important safety tip number 1. Then it's going to be vectors to Mossby, above 3,000 feet at Mossby, and a standard ILS. So all of that looks good. Perfect. So let's go and set up that ILS. And the ILS is going to be... So for the ILS, we're doing 110.1. So I'm using the Logitech radio panel now. So 110.1. This is gonna, I really think I'm gonna like this. Okay, 110.1, that looks great. Now then, I also want to set in RML, the VOR. So the RML VOR is 113.5. 113.5 and make that active too. Okay, so we've got both of those nav aids set up in there. So that looks good. Now then, for the inbound course, for the ILS, that's going to be 011 degrees. So I'm going to set 011 for that. RML is going to be something else. I want to set a course over here for the RML VOR. So there's RML right there, and it's right by runway 30. So I'm going to set the inbound course, which is 301, over here. So 301 is what I'm going to put in for RML. Okay. There we go. We're at our final cruising altitude. Top of descent is now, looks like 40 miles out. Let's go back to cruise. 42 miles. So we got plenty of time to yammer. All right. So we got those things set. Now look over here at the ILS plate. So setting minimums, you know, we look over here for the ILS, and minimums for runway 1 right is 512 feet. Slide all the way over here, and there's a special one here, and it says circle to land. That's what we're going to do today. And you take a look at your max. I believe this is your max speed, knots. So my max speed is probably going to be between 140 and 165. As far as your MDA, I'm just going to set 940, but I think I should probably do the other one. So 940 is what I'm going to set right now. So we're going to go over here. I'm going to go and switch from radio to baro, and let's dial in 940. You know where to look, right? In the center, right below the artificial horizon. So as I'm holding that number down, I'm just clicking around, and we're looking for 940 feet. 7, 8. There's 923, and now I'm just going to use the thumb wheel to get to 940. There we go. So the baro is now set to 940 for minimums. So we're going to come in, and we're going to do a standard approach into the ILS. I'm not going to be using the land button now. I'm going to set my altitude at 1,900 feet at Waxon, but I'm going to do RNAV to Mossby and RNAV to Waxon using the LNAV system. When we get to Waxon, then I'll start my own descent down here, and I won't be following this. I'll go a little bit further. And what we're going to do is, remember, I set RML in, and so that's going to give us the little line right here. I'm going to start my turn a little bit before I get to 1 right, so that I can do a nice gentle turn to runway 30. So that's our circle to land to runway 30. Some landmarks to look for. Look for the Udvar Hazy Smithsonian Museum. So once we pass that, we'll see the museum right over here, just off to the left. So once I see that one off to the left, that's when maybe I'm going to start my gentle little turn back into the runway. Okay? So that's the plan. Let's see how it works. Okay, so top of descent is getting closer. Top of descent is 26 miles out. So ATC has just called and said that we are cleared to descend on the Hyper 8 approach. Washington landing north, prepare for the circle to land. So the low altitude here is 4,000 feet at Hustle. So let's go down here and we're going to dial in 4,000 feet. There is 4,000 feet. We are heading 236. I haven't kept my heading updated here. So 236. And that looks good. The only other thing that we could do is we could come in here and let's get an updated weather report for Dulles. So there it is. There is our latest weather for Washington. I'm going to clip those into my notes too. The altimeter at Dulles is 3029. So let's do 3029. So you dial it in and then you look at the number below STD here, 3029. And that presets it for us, which I think is really, really nice. And then sometimes it's a small number, so zoom in and just verify that you got it right. I really think that that's a nice little thing that you get in the Boeing 737. Let me just preset that in there so that at transition, I got one button to push. That's nice. On the other hand, maybe the argument for not doing it that way is between now and the time we get to 18,000 feet, the altimeter might change, so you got to look at it anyway. I don't know. For me, as a simulator person, one person alone in the cockpit, anything that will help save me just a little bit of work, I am really grateful for. Coming in here a little bit closer, let's go ahead and go from 80 miles to 40 miles. Top of descent is pretty well set up there. Our altitude is set. We're track up. It's 235 is our new heading. Let's also go ahead and I'm also pretty close. I keep an eye on my fuel. At Dulles, we are expecting 7,700 pounds of fuel when we touch down, unless we have to do a hold or a diverter, something like that. Well, our final reserve and alternate is supposed to be 5.5. We're going to have 7.7. I did not board any extra fuel today. So we're doing great as far as fuel is concerned. When you start flying long hauls across the pond and stuff like that, those are really, really important. That number becomes important. And if you're going to fly the old school Airbus A310, you really need to be as close to your optimum cruise level as possible. Otherwise, you start losing fuel. And if you don't pay attention, you're not going to have enough fuel to make it across the pond. So that becomes an important deal. Everything is set. The only other thing that I might do now is we might go ahead and let's do auto brakes 3. I might need speed brakes, so I'm not going to bother with speed brakes at the moment. And we are slowing it down a little bit here for our descent. So it's slowing us down to 280. And we're getting ready we're making a turn in here. And we are just coming up on Joan. So we just passed the Lancaster VOR. We've slowed it down a bit. 2.5 miles to top of descent. Down we go. It's a fast flight for us today. And things will really start getting fast for us when we get close in and start to make that turn. Nothing really to worry about here. Four, three, 2, there we go. There's our descent. Folks from the cockpit, your captain speaking. We're just turning on the seatbelt sign as we've started our descent into Washington Dulles International Airport. Washington has light winds today, good visibility. Should be a nice day, a little chilly getting off the airplane. We are coming into gate Delta 19, so you'll have a nice warm jetway to walk through. Looks like we're going to be getting into Dulles on time today. Probably got 1832. Looks like we got about 30 minutes of flying time before we'll have you at the gate. Thanks for flying today, and for those of you that get a little air sick, that's what that barf bag's for. 250, so that's good, and we are on our way down. So seatbelts are good. See why I could never be a real airline pilot? I would say the wrong things on the PA system. Yeah, kids, that's what the barf bag's for. I doubt the head pilot would be very, very pleased with me. Okay, everything's looking good to go here. Nothing to worry about. I think we're in great shape. I'm sure there's something I've forgotten. Whenever I think in my head, I'm in great shape, it's sort of like, oh gee, what have I forgotten? So one of the things that I will do is, since I live stream so many of my flights, one of the things that it's important to do is do just a training flight on your own. So one of the things I'll do later today is I've got a checklist, real world checklist, printed checklist for 737. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to try and do a flight later on today and go strictly by the checklist, just as a way for me to see, okay, have I picked up any bad habits? You know, what are some bad things that I'm doing here? What are some things that I might be forgetting? And I think, you know, using a checklist like that will help you realize what it is that you're, you know, messing up. Passing 20,000 feet, altimeter setting is next. And we're preset with that. Our descent is looking good. So we can come over here and do init ref. I'm in this 737, I don't know what it is. Flaps 30 seems to be my best flap setting for landing, unless it's a super short runway. So that gives me about 144 knots. I always round up a little bit. So probably about 150 knots is going to be my speed for a flaps 30 landing. When you get a chance, if you also can, take a look at your instruments. All right, flaps 30, especially because we fly different airplanes. Just have a look. Yep, there's flaps 30. That way we can see, and it's really easy for us to just glance over and say, oh, yep. Because at this view, sitting back here, I can't quite see the 30. So that helps. Coming up on 18,000 feet, one of the things I like about Airbus is when you hit transition, the STD starts flashing at you. This one just changes to yellow. And 17, you're supposed to change to yellow. You're supposed to change. Oh, okay, there it is. Now it changed to yellow. But I gotta tell you, the flashing gets my attention more than the yellow indicator, which is really nice. Okay, we have got a descent banana here, showing us when we're gonna get to that altitude. Another good thing to do is come over here and keep a close eye. So we're doing good on the arrival here. ATC may call and give us a hold at bins. You could also hold at hyper. If you do get a chance to practice holds, boy, is that a good thing to do. Another good thing to do is, now that we've kind of briefed our descent and our approach and our landing, another thing to do is have a quick look. Okay, so off runway 30, we've got Quebec 3 and Quebec 1, so 2 high speeds. I'll probably get Quebec 1. And around we go. They could bring us out here Tango and Whiskey to the gates. They could do Tango, Whiskey 3 right into Delta. And then also, if you've gone and identified your gate, mine is D19. it's also a good idea to have a quick look and see where your gates are. One of the things that I will also do is I will look at a real-world airplane tracker website, in my case SimAware, and if I'm doing a flight like this and I know it's going to be on VATSIM, I might take 30 seconds and just look up and see what are the real-world airplanes departing and arriving from. That's actually what I did for this flight to figure out which gate to depart from and which gate to try and go for. And it's really easy to check. Now, not all airports report that. Some airports regard departure gates as a security issue. So, you're not going to be able to tell that. So at that point in time, just kind of look around and see, okay, is this where the airline I'm flying is parking? Great, we'll go there. Otherwise, if nothing else, a gate is a gate is a gate. You could just say, gate is your choice. If ATC calls and asks you for a gate number. Passing 13,000 feet, we are doing really good now. The airplane is going to slow us down to 250 knots at hyper and 10,000 feet. And it does really pretty good. This is one of the rare moments where we're not that busy. So if you get a chance, roll on back to one of your favorite seats, have a look outside and just say, wow, that looks good. And it really does. I also did a flight out of my hometown airport recently during the snowstorm, just to see, what it looked like. And it looked pretty good. I mean, the snowfall was looking just about like what I was seeing outside my door. So that one was kind of cool too. Could verify our pressurization if we wanted to be good pilots. So 24,300 feet. All is right with the world. I also keep a close eye on descent deviation. So this shows that, hey, how far above and below the optimum descent we are. And that's good for this airplane and also an Airbus. So that's a really good thing to keep an eye on. See if we're getting a little high. If we're getting a little high, might throw out some speed brake just a bit, and that helps out too. Now, as we come upon the 10,000 foot altitude restrictions, sometimes that's going to deviate a bit. So that's a good place to keep an eye on that. So you're not too high and all of a sudden too high and too fast. Also, we can look out and see a little bit of haze on the horizon. The weather at Washington, so winds are 200 at 6, 10 miles visibility. We do have scattered clouds at 5,000 feet and scattered clouds at 10,000 feet. Temperature's -1, so we may need to be ready, may need to do anti-ice coming in. Airplane is now trying to slow itself down for 10,000 feet. Usually the PMDG does great, but as it's trying to do that, I'm going to look at that descent deviation indicator and see whether or not I have become deviant. I already know my sense of humor is, so there you go. 10,000 feet, looking pretty good. Speed's coming down. We can come over here, and I'm going to do landing lights. I'm going to pre-turn on that nose light. I'm going to do a cabin call for sterile cockpit. And at 10,000 feet, this might not be the exact time. When I turn on and off my landing lights, that's usually when I go to continuous start. That's just the time that I will go and get those continuous buttons turned on, because I've had such a bad time forgetting those. So 10,000 feet and continuous go together right now. Eventually, I'm sure I will learn when the proper time to do that is. There is our turn in. And we're continuing to come down. Let's see. We've slowed our descent so it could get us to 250 knots. But it hasn't slowed us down too much, so that's good news. Nothing to worry about here. If I'm on VATSIM right now, I might be looking ahead on vPilot or xPilot, depending upon, X-Plane or Microsoft, to see, is there ATC ahead? Is there a tower? So we could say, we've got 121.9. 121.9. So ground point 9 is going to be ground control. So if I can, I'm going to go ahead and see what's ahead and preset as much as I can. I really think that the Logitech radio panel is going to be a big help. Really big help in that, because I can really get behind just trying to tune radios. Okay, 212 is our heading. And everything's good. Really nice looking scenery today. This flight has been really nice to look out the window. If I had unlimited time and unlimited money, what I would do is I would go and try and do a flight in the real airplane as a passenger and photograph it, with my iPhone out the window, the way some people do. Come back, load in the historic weather, load in the flight plan, and just do the real video on one side of the screen and the simulator video on the other. I think that would be interesting to watch. Passing 8,000 feet, that looks good. As we start to come in here, it's reducing our speed a bit, so it's dropped us down to 230. As you get close to airports like this, usually ATC is going to be assigning you speeds. So in the Boeing, click the speed intervention button, and that gives us control of speed. So that's going to hold us at 240 knots. It definitely got a little hazy outside, didn't it? I mean, we had really clear stuff outside before. Now it's getting hazy. I think our speeds are good, so I think that I have not armed my speed brakes. So I'm going to do speed brakes and auto brakes. So speed brakes and auto brakes are now set for landing. If you do it early like I did and then you end up needing your speed brakes, just remember to rearm them. Okay, coming up to Sigby. As we get closer to Hustle, we'll probably go down to 210. Placard speeds said that right now, we could do flaps 1, 2, and 5 at 250 knots. How about leading edge slats? We could also do flaps 1. There we go. And now let's go ahead and make our turn to the south. So turn to the south we go. There we go. So at our present rate, we're at about 240 knots, and I got flaps out at 2. We could go to 3, but then this thing starts to turn yellow. So I figured, we don't necessarily need 3. So we're in good shape right now. Descent's going pretty good, and it is getting hazier and hazier. Visibility is still 10 miles, so we should be able to still see the runway for this. 188 and 188 is our heading. Over here, I'm going to go and start zooming this in just a little bit. You could also go ahead and put it on this map too. This is nice too. I've been trying to use this to study, and then I'm trying to kind of leave it on this map. It's really nice and detailed, and I can continue to zoom the map in, and it'll become an airport chart. So it's one less thing to click. If you're like me, you kind of scrunch around in your gaming chair and stuff. So as you start to get closer, you know, over on Twitch, we've got the things that people who are watching can say posture check. And that's not in, you know, so if you're flying in a sim and you've been flying for a while, remember to do a posture check. So there is Mowat. After Mowat, we're going to look for Hustle. At Hustle, we'll start to, we'll get our speed down to 210 knots. Oh, heading is now 190. Nothing to worry about here. Landing speed, I'm still going to go with about 150 knots here. We are 52. See, Dulles landing. $18.33. That's pretty close to on the schedule that I thought we were going to have for this flight. United does fly regular flights down from Newark to Dulles. They fly A319s and 320s. So they don't do an awful lot of 737s on this route. Okay, 4,000 feet at Hustle. We'll just hang out there a bit. Nice view outside the airplane. I'm noticing a few more bounces than I was expecting. We're getting a couple little bounces here, little turbulence. Really, really nice. Amazing to look outside here. I used to live, it was a long time ago, lived in Virginia, and I would get a small commuter flight up to Washington, Dulles. And I mean, this kind of takes me back just a little bit looking at this, at the views outside in this part of the world. Okay, there's Hustle. Let's go ahead and do 210. So speed down to 210 knots. According to the placard speeds, we can do flaps 10. I'm going to go ahead and let's do flaps 5. Always fun to go and look outside the window and then hit your flap button. I've just started using spad.next to control for controls. I haven't set controllers yet, but I am hoping to maybe be able to set the Airbus flap lever for this. So we're at 210 knots. I'm going to bring my map in a click here. You can see our runway. So there's one runway one right, and that's about 10 miles ahead of us. So if we look out here and say, do we have an airport out there? I think there is our airport. Here's Dulles. Nothing to worry about here. Lights are all good. Continuous start is good. We're not in any clouds, so I'm not going to worry about anti-ice at the moment. Looks like we just went over a river, a golf course, and a cemetery all together. We're getting a little bit of wing flap today. We must have some. We must have a little bit of turbulence today. It's pretty good wing flex. $4,000 feet and 210 knots. And I'd say that looks like an airport to me. So there's the runway with the ILS, but this is the one that we're going to be landing on. So as you look, as we look here, there's the end of the runway. There is the Smithsonian. So we're going to want to make that turn as soon as we pass the Smithsonian. You kind of gotta wonder if real pilots, if they're using this, if they use like the tower that they have. There's an observation tower at the Air and Space Museum there. If they say, okay, there's the tower, let's start a gentle turn in. As we fly over here, you'll notice the highway that comes in, and also the new rail lines. I think that the rail line is now completed out to Dulles. So you can go from downtown Washington, there's the highway, but there's a rail line in there. Years ago when I went in, it wasn't complete, so I had to take a bus in or a cab in. And you can see there is our airport. And so there's the highway that goes in. There is the famous terminal right there. So all is right with the world. Coming up on Yak. After Yak, ATC will call and say, descend and maintain 3,000. As we look outside, there is the runway. So you can see if you draw a line with the runway, it kind of center line is at the end of the runway here. I'm going to do my turn a little bit sooner. So there's the end of the runway. There's the Smithsonian. So that's the small little area that we have to go through there. Okay, we're also going to go ahead. We're direct Tycon. So 01, we're past Yak. Descend and maintain 3,000. I'm going to hit the altitude. Let's see, do I have to intervene at this point? I don't think I have to intervene. Guess so. Let's hit the button once and see what happens. Intervention. You going to descend for me? Yep. So you do have to intervene. Coming up on 3,000. We're on the 10-mile range here. Okay, so do you see here at the bottom of the map? It's almost gone. There is the RML VOR. See the green line? That's the RML. That's our little line there. So that kind of is going to be a little visual indicator for us there. We're 7 miles from RML's VOR. So that's going to be the line that we use, that we'll try and fly down. We'll wait and get ourselves nicely established on this glide ILS. Again, I'm not going to go and use the landing button. I'm going to do this manually. And we are definitely getting bounced about here today. Coming up on Tycon, heading is 191. I'm going to go ahead and go to heading select now, because that's good. It's supposed to be vectors after Tycon. There we go. 3,000 and sort of change. Once we get parallel, once we get Mosby off our left wingtip, we'll slow down, start the turn, do a direct to, get LNAV working for us again, and then do a descent to 1,900 feet. At least that's the plan. We shall see how it works. Hopefully at the end of this flight, I will be channeling Hannibal Smith from the A-Team and saying, I love it when a plan comes together. But chances are, it's going to be something a little more tragic. Okay, all this is looking good. Let's get ready with legs. And we're going to go direct Mosby in a bit. Slowly making our way to 3,000 feet. It's just kind of inching us down right now. Going over some S-turns in that little river. That's got to be a fun place to take your boat in the summer and spring and fall. Not going to see Mosby outside there, but see, as we're passing there, there should be Manassas Regional Airport. There was a Kurt Russell movie years ago where he was taking flying lessons. I think it was at Manassas, and he ended up it's when he landed the 747 at Manassas Regional. I don't remember, but we're just passing Manassas Regional right out there, KHEF. So that's another good way to look at that. Okay, there's Mosby. So 180, there's our speed. Now let's go ahead and crank this heading all the way around. Okay, that's going to get us turned over to Mosby. Speed's coming down. Let's do another notch of flaps. There's going to be flaps 10. I think we can get up to flaps 15 at 180 knots. So around we go. Let's also do 10 miles on the map now. So there's 10 miles on the map, and around we go there. See, it looks like an apartment complex and a housing area. So there's that Manassas Regional there, and I'm going to go and start slowly dialing this in now that we're off the flight plan, and that's that way I can start using that as my ground chart. Okay, looking over here, we are pretty close to direct to Mosby. So let's go and let's clear this. Mosby, replace vectors, execute, come on up here, LNAV. That's going to help me get lined up on the runway. Okay, posture check here. All of this is good. I'm going to go and do landing gear so we can go and do wheels. There's gear, so that looks good too. Looking over here, speed brakes, auto brakes are green, gear down is 3 green. I call this 1, 2, 3, my 5 green lights. If I got those 5 green lights there, life is good. I'm gonna go flaps 15. I'm going to preload 1,900 feet in here. There we go, that looks good too. And after Mosby, we'll descend and maintain 1,900 feet. After we're done with this, I'm going to go back over to init ref, check my speeds again for flaps 30. I think 150 knots is still an okay number here. And there's the airport, there's the runway. We are at Mosby. We are now direct waxing. I'm going to hit out, let's do vertical speed on this one. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go to about 500, 600 feet per minute as we descend. Maybe 7, 650. Nice and gentle. That is going to be good. Okay, sit back in your chair. Make sure that the recline in your chair is locked. Otherwise you tilt backwards, which is no fun when you're landing. Gently putting my hand on the stick, feet on the throttles, feet on the rudder pedals, and I'm physically moving my throttles forward to what is going to be about halfway. So I can take control of the throttles on this. Okay, now we're descending pretty good. I'm going to slow this down a bit. How about 400 feet per minute? All of this looks good. Another notch of flaps. Still keeping my speed up in almost all ATCs. Going to want 180 knots until about 5 miles DME. So it's just the way I do it all the time. Almost to Waxon. Coming up on 1900. So 1.2 miles. Okay, landmarks. There's the runway. There is the Smithsonian. There's our runway. There's Mosby. AP is off. 150 knots. Pushing my nose down just a little bit. Trim's going to help me out. Another notch of flaps. There is the Smithsonian Tower. There's the edge of the runway. I don't mind the fact that I'm a little bit high on this descent. Keep in mind, we're going a little bit further than runway 01 right here. Descending at about 500 feet per minute. I'm using my trim to help stabilize that descent too. There's the Smithsonian. We're getting a little off to the side. Way high if we were landing on one right, but I'm gonna think that this has got to be good for the one we're going on. Okay, we've just passed.
Minimums.
There we go. We're past there. Start my turn.
Minimums.
Landing. Gentle turn. I see the runway off to the side.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Too low.
Auto throttles
terrain.
are off.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
Little
Too
high.
Low, terrain.
We got a long
Too low,
runway.
Terrain. Too low. 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 Terrain.
Reverse. Reverse thrust. Not going to make that high speed because I floated so much. .60 knots. Reverser stowed. Auto brakes off. Speed brakes down. Manual braking. We're at 24 knots. Welcome to Washington. So landing lights, strobes. This is also when I'll be sure and do restart, APU. Now I have one button to hit because I went and I preset my ground frequency. Boy, is that nice. And it's a button outside the cockpit. It just helps. So if you can do that, that's one peripheral that I'm gonna say, hey, that's a little bit of hardware that's nice. It's the Logitech radio panel. I think I'm gonna really, really like that. Thanks, Trip Taker. It was a Christmas gift. Okay, coming on in. So let's go ahead and auto brakes are going off. Let's do traffic can go off too. We're gonna come down here and go to transponder down here. And in we go. Everything looks like it's good to go up there. Let's go ahead and plan to do the Tango taxiway. So that's going to take us over by 01 left and take us right into the gate area. Oh, we could also do flaps going up too. And we're at about 17 knots, so I do add just a little bit of thrust on a big long taxi like this. We're going to keep ourselves up to about 20 knots here. On a real long taxi, apparently you can go all the way to 30. A nice view of leading edge slats and a very nicely done fence. That landing actually felt good. How was our landing rate? What did we get out of that? We got a 355 for our landing. Oh well. But you can kind of see there was our turn coming in, and then there was the turn for the runway. Now you can see a little bit of an overturn there. Little bit of an overturn, but actually not bad. So maybe I could have started a gentle turn just a little bit sooner. By the Smithsonian on that. Okay, we're coming up here on the Tango taxiway, throttles to idle. We're at 23 knots, so we're going to have to do some gentle braking. I found that below 15 is okay. So a little bit of braking, 17, there's about 14 knots. It seems like we're hardly moving. But if you look out the side window, this is kind of what it feels like for a 90-degree turn here. There is a properly marked taxiway. Going to add a bit of power. There is also a hold short point here for a approach. The west apron is a big holding zone, and I bet de-icing area for airplanes that they send all the way out here. Looks like we've got one little taxiway over here that they haven't finished, so that's probably an expansion. So up we come. So this is Tango. It magically changes to uniform. Yeah, so they're going to do something over here. Here's this big holding zone here. We're going to go for the other side of that, which should take us right into our gate. It's just a gentle turn here, so we can kind of come this way and still keep our speed up. There's 26 knots. That's probably getting to be a little much. So thrust idle. Down we go. Improvements on this airplane. There was a whole list of improvements that the developer had over on the PMDG forum website. If you get a chance to check it out, if those are, you know, seeing all the things that they've got on their list to improve. One of the things that they did talk about was the much anticipated electronic flight bag. It's not ready. And I'm just like you are. I can't wait for the electronic flight bag for this airplane. But I'm also one of those people that, when the developer's ready to release it, I will be ready to enjoy using it. Until then, I am good with them taking all the time that they need to get this taken care of. So absolutely take all the time you need. Can't wait for it to show up. They're also working on the 900. Kind of surprised. There are a lot of people that fly with me over on the Spy Flight, and they're really excited about the 900. They're very excited about that. Oh, I went one too far. Yep, there's a security car waiting for us. Yep, I went too far, so we're going to have to do a bit of a turn. So we do have to cross one-way, one center. Oh, we could take the high speed down to where we're going. There we go. So after one center, we'll take the high speed down to the gates where we're going. So ground speed's about 25 knots. That's not bad. There's the famous main terminal area. By the way, this is a really nicely done scenery. So if looking at that, you know, checking that terminal out is something you'd like to do, I do recommend it. I know that you can walk around in the Bravo concourse. I don't know. Haven't really looked at the concourse out here. Okay, so cleared across runway 1 center and then right on the high speed. Which should take us right into United Land. We're going for D19 is where this flight is coming in from Newark. So there's Yankee 7. This should put us on the Charlie stuff. Oh, actually, we're going to need to go and do a little bit of a turn here. And then, so a little less power, little more brakes. Sure want to say a big thank you for flying along with me today. I hope you are having fun with the simulator. I think that one of the things that I got with the latest update for the PMDG was a few FPS came back. So that is exciting news. We'll take any frame rates we can get back. We are looking for 19. So there is 19. Slow it down. And it's a sharp turn on here. One of the things that is that we desperately do need is a good docking system. So automated docking. You can get some ground crew on occasion, but good docking is something that I think we all desperately kind of excited about and hoping for. Since the last video that I did here on YouTube, whoops, little bit too much braking there. Since the last video I did on YouTube, I started up a special page that I'm over on Patreon, and you'll find a pre-flight briefing for the spy flight there pretty much every day of the week. Except days like today. Okay, there we are. So parking brakes. APU is up. Engine number 1, engine number 2. Look up here real fast. Let's get those generators kicked in. Let's also do the APU bleed and the isolation switch. Passengers are getting up, so seatbelts. We'll also disarm the emergency exit lights. That looks good too. Anti-collision should go off. I should have turned off the taxi light as we go in. And then forward and the left aft fuel pumps. Come on down here. We are done squawking. Come on up here and we can go and hit the menu button, FS actions, ground services, put your chocks in first, then you can request a ground cart, then you can request a jetway. As you look up there, there comes the jetway. So look on down here. We're going to go to page 2, nothing there. Page 3. Put a 0 in for your passenger target. Leave it alone. Next page, put a 0 in for the forward cargo bay, a 0 in for the aft cargo bay, and then call all of the cargo trucks. There's your cargo trucks. Come on back over here, go and return, go to doors. By now the jetway is in place. Open the 1L, and if you zip back there, you can see there is our jetway already in place too. So once that's in, go to return, go to ground services, go to page 2, nothing there. Page 3, start the passengers off the jetway, go over here and you will wait for the cargo bays. And there we go. Once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety. And that was Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. from the movie Airport 75. Yes, it's okay to be an airplane geek. I hope that some of this was a little bit helpful to you. As I always like to say, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what it is that I'm finding works for me. and hopefully this helps you get your simulator up and in the air, and you're having as much fun with the Microsoft Flight Simulator as I am. I'm still pretty new here on YouTube, so if you can, leave your questions in your comments over on YouTube. I will definitely get around to answering them. Also, if you have a suggestion for one of these complete cold and dark videos, please pop that in there, and I will be happy to put that in as well. Let's see, did want to say a big thank you to the subscribers and the gift givers on Twitch, and also over on Patreon, the Secret Agents, Richard, Loviz, Tim, Blazers in 2000, Andy Eagle, the Special Agent Brandon, and a 00 B. Kaiser. Thank you for being such incredible jet fuel in the flight plan. My name is Dave. Thank you for flying with me. I hope you are having so much fun with the sim. It really is getting exciting. We've got great planes coming out next year, and I will look forward to seeing you in the friendly sim skies. As always, though, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you over on Patreon, see you over on Twitch, and again next week on YouTube. Cheers.